He had buried her 6 years ago. At least, that's what they told him. They gave him a coffin with no body. They gave him answers that never felt right, and they told him to move on. Ethan Brooks tried. He built walls around his heart, drowned his nights in silence, and learned to live with the ache of never knowing what really happened to his wife, Claire. But on a freezing winter night, in the shadow of a broken street lamp, a homeless girl stepped out of the darkness and whispered words that stopped his heart cold. "Your wife is alive." From that moment, nothing would ever be the same. Who was this girl? How did she know Claire's name and Ethan's? And why did her eyes hold the kind of fear that only comes from being hunted? Before the night was over, Ethan would find himself running through back alleys, clutching a clue written in his wife's own handwriting, a clue that could either lead him back to her or get them both killed. Because finding Claire would uncover a truth darker than death itself, and someone was willing to kill to keep it hidden. The night was cold, sharp enough to cut through bone. Ethan Brooks pulled his coat tighter, but no amount of wool could warm a man who'd been empty inside for years. The city street was silent except for the crunch of his boots against frozen gravel. He had no reason to be here, not at this hour, but his legs had carried him out of habit. To walk, to think, to forget. It had been 6 years since the accident. 6 years since they told him his wife, Claire, was gone. A freak collision on a rain-slick road, they'd said. No survivors. He had buried an empty coffin because the wreckage had been too mangled to recover a body. That day, something inside him had died too. Ethan wasn't just alone. He was hollow. His once thriving business had crumbled. Friendships had withered. And his only conversations were with a bartender who never asked about the past. Tonight was no different, until he saw her. She was crouched in the shadows between two buildings, knees drawn to her chest, hair a tangled curtain over her face. A homeless girl, no older than 17, shivering under a torn blanket. He wouldn't have stopped if it weren't for the sound. Soft, almost too faint to hear. A whisper, Ethan Brooks. He froze. He hadn't told her his name. The girl looked up, her eyes glinting under the street lamp, strange and knowing. She rose slowly, every movement deliberate, as though she'd been waiting for him. "You know me?" he asked, his voice uncertain. She nodded. "Your wife is alive." The words hit him like a punch to the chest. For a moment, the world seemed to tilt. His breath caught, his vision blurred, and all he could do was stare at her pale face, searching for the cruel smirk of a liar. But she wasn't smiling. Her eyes were steady, almost sad. "That's impossible," he said. "She's been dead for 6 years. She's not dead." The girl whispered again, stepping closer. "But if you want to see her, you have to follow me now." Ethan's mind raced. Every logical part of him screamed that this was madness, but there was something in her voice, not desperation, not deceit, something unshakable. Against every instinct, he followed. The girl led him down narrow back alleys, past overflowing dumpsters and graffiti-stained walls. The air grew colder, the shadows deeper. He could hear his own pulse pounding in his ears. "Who are you?" he asked. "They call me Mara," she said without looking back. "And I promised her I'd find you." "Promised who?" "Claire." His knees nearly buckled at the sound of her name from a stranger's lips. They turned a corner into an abandoned industrial district. Most of the buildings were boarded up, their windows shattered. Mara stopped in front of a rusted metal door and pulled a small key from a chain around her neck. "She's here," Ethan demanded. "Not exactly," Mara said quietly, "but this is where it starts." Inside, the air was damp and smelled of rust. The room was empty except for a single wooden table. On it lay a photograph, old, faded, but unmistakable. Claire, her smile was exactly as he remembered, but there was something different in her eyes, fear. Ethan reached for the photo with trembling hands. "Where did you get this?" "She gave it to me," Amara said. 2 weeks ago." His heart pounded so hard it hurt. "That's impossible. You can't. She's alive, Ethan." Amara interrupted, her voice fierce now. "But she's in danger, and the people who have her, they'll kill her if they know you're looking." He gripped the table to steady himself. "Tell me where she is." "I can't, not yet. You have to trust me." Ethan wanted to shout to demand answers, but her eyes held him, their eyes too old for her young face, eyes that carried truths he wasn't ready to hear. Mara slid a small envelope across the table. Inside is the first place you need to go, but you have to go alone. No police, no friends. If you tell anyone, she dies. His hands shook as he opened it. Inside was a train ticket to a small town he'd never heard of, and a scrap of paper with a single word written in Claire's handwriting. Run. He swallowed hard, his throat dry. Why would she write this? Because they're watching, Mara said. And they'll come for you, too, if you're not careful. The sound of footsteps echoed from somewhere beyond the door. Mara's eyes widened. She snatched the photo from the table and shoved it into his coat pocket. Go, she hissed. Now. Ethan hesitated, but she grabbed his arm with surprising strength. If you love her, don't look back. He ran out the door into the freezing night, the photo burning against his chest. His mind was chaos, memories of Claire's laugh, the day they met, the last time he saw her face, and now this girl, this stranger, telling him she was alive. By the time he reached the main street, his lungs were on fire. He turned once, half expecting Mara to be behind him, but the alley was empty. Back in his apartment, Ethan locked the door and sat in darkness, the ticket clutched in his hand. Every rational thought told him it was a cruel trick. But then he pulled the photo from his pocket and saw it. On the back, faint but unmistakable. Claire's handwriting again, trust her. Sleep was impossible. He spent the night pacing, the words circling in his head like a storm, your wife is alive. By dawn, he'd made his choice. He packed a small bag, took the ticket, and boarded the first train out of the city. The seat was cold, the window fogged with condensation, but his thoughts burned hotter than they had in years. Somewhere out there, Claire was alive. Somewhere she was waiting. And for the first time in 6 years, Ethan felt something other than grief. Hope. But deep down, he knew hope was dangerous, because if Mara was telling the truth, then someone had lied to him for years. Someone had stolen his wife's life, and his own, and whoever they weren't going to let him find her without a fight. Ethan gripped the ticket so tightly it crumpled in his fist. He didn't know where this train would take him, but he knew one thing. He wouldn't stop until he found her, even if it cost him everything. The train screeched into the tiny station, the sound jarring against the quiet of the countryside. Ethan stepped down onto the platform, clutching the crumpled ticket like it might vanish if he let go. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of pine and damp earth. A world away from the city's noise and decay, only a handful of people milled about. None paid him any attention. That was good. He didn't want to be noticed. The scrap of paper with Claire's single word, run, burned in his pocket. He had no idea what awaited him here, only that Mara had been dead serious. No police, no friends, no questions. A narrow road stretched away from the station, flanked by forest on both sides. The only sign of civilization was a faded diner with a flickering neon open sign. Ethan stepped inside. The smell of coffee and frying bacon hit him immediately. A waitress with tired eyes looked up from behind the counter. What'll it be? He slid onto a stool. Just coffee. She poured a steaming mug, then leaned in slightly. You're Ethan Brooks. His grip on the cup tightened. Do I know you? She glanced toward a booth in the corner where an old man sat alone, a newspaper folded in front of him. He's been waiting for you. Ethan's heart thudded. He crossed the room slowly, his instincts on high alert. The old man didn't look up until Ethan was standing over him. His face was weathered, his hands trembling slightly as he motioned for Ethan to sit. You don't know me, the man began, his voice low, but I knew Claire before all this. Ethan leaned forward. Where is she? The man's eyes darted toward the door, then back. Not here, not safe to say, but she's close, closer than you think, and she's in trouble. Ethan's pulse quickened. What kind of trouble? The kind that doesn't let you live twice. Before Ethan could press him, the bell above the diner door jingled. 2 men walked in broad, shouldered, dressed in dark coats, their eyes scanning the room like predators. The old man's jaw tightened. Too late, he muttered. They followed you. One of the men started toward their booth, the other blocked the door. Listen to me. The old man hissed, "There's a cabin at the end of Black Hollow Road. Go there, she'll find you." "What about you?" "I was done a long time ago," he said, sliding something across the table. "A brass key on a frayed string. Go." Ethan didn't argue. He slipped the key into his pocket, grabbed his bag, and bolted for the side door. Shouts followed him, heavy footsteps pounding after him. He didn't look back. The forest swallowed him almost immediately, the bare branches clawing at his coat. He pushed through, lungs burning, until he spotted a narrow dirt road. A weathered sign read, "Black Hollow Road." The road wound deep into the woods, each step colder and quieter than the last. When he finally saw the cabin, his chest clenched. It was small, leaning slightly to one side, with smoke curling from its chimney. He approached cautiously, the crunch of snow underfoot sounding too loud in the stillness. He knocked once. Silence, then a creak. The door opened just enough for a pale face to peek through. It wasn't Claire. The woman was in her 40s, her eyes sharp but kind. "You must be Ethan," she said softly. "Come in, quickly." Inside, the cabin was dim, lit only by a small fire. The woman locked the door behind him. "I'm Lorna," she said, "Claire's friend." Ethan's voice was hoarse. "Where is she?" Lorna hesitated, then handed him a folded piece of paper. "She wanted you to read this first." His hands shook as he opened it. The handwriting was Claire's. He'd have known it anywhere. "Ethan, if you're reading this, it means Mara found you. I can't explain everything now. It's not safe, but know this. I never left you by choice. They took me, they've been watching you all these years, and now they know you're looking. Trust no one but Mara and Lorna. I'll come to you when I can. Please, don't stop. I love you. Claire." His vision blurred. The words cut through him like glass, shattering the years of grief into something sharp, or anger. Lorna placed a hand on his arm. "She's alive, Ethan, but if you try to go to her now, you'll lead them straight to her." "Who are they?" he demanded. Her expression hardened. "People with power, people who don't forgive loose ends." Claire saw something she wasn't supposed to, and they've kept her under their thumb ever since. Ethan's fists clenched. "Then tell me where." Lorna shook her head. "You're not ready. You'll get her killed." Before he could respond, there was a noise outside. The crunch of boots in snow, deliberate and slow. Lorna's eyes went wide. She blew out the lamp, plunging the room into near darkness. "They found you." She shoved him toward the back door. "Go. There's a path behind the cabin that leads to the river. Mara will meet you there." Ethan didn't hesitate this time. He ran, the cold air slicing his lungs. The forest loomed, shadows stretching like claws. Behind him, the front door burst open and voices shouted. He pushed harder, branches whipping his face. Then, up ahead, a figure appeared, small, hood pulled low. "Mara," she grabbed his arm, breathless. "You're still alive. Good. We have to move." They followed the river until the lights of the cabin were just a faint glow behind them. Mara finally stopped under a fallen tree, pulling something from her coat. A small flash drive. "This is why they want her," Mara said, her voice low. "Proof, names, everything they've done." Ethan stared at the device, and "Claire has the rest." Mara nodded. "She's the only one who knows how to use it without getting killed." Ethan's throat tightened. "So we bring it to her." Her eyes locked on his. "It's not that simple. There's a man guarding her. A man who thinks she's someone else. If he finds out the truth, she's dead." The weight of it pressed down on him. 6 years of believing she was gone, and now he had a chance, but only if he played this dangerous game right. Mara's gaze softened. "You can't save her if you're dead, Ethan. We have to be smarter than them." Somewhere in the distance, the echo of footsteps carried through the trees. Mara slipped the flash drive into his pocket. "This is your proof she's alive, but it's also a death sentence if you get caught. Choose carefully." Ethan closed his hand around it. "I've already made my choice." They disappeared into the night, the forest swallowing their silhouettes. Somewhere beyond the darkness, Claire was waiting, and Ethan Brooks would burn the world to reach her. The safe house was a crumbling barn on the edge of the forest. Its rotting beams groaned in the wind. The smell of hay and damp would heavy in the air. Mara pushed the door open. her eyes scanning every shadow before stepping inside. "She'll be here," she whispered, "but we only have minutes." Ethan's heart pounded. Every muscle in his body was strung tight, every breath shallow. Then, footsteps, soft, hesitant. From the far corner, a figure emerged. She was thinner, her hair longer and streaked with silver, but her eyes, those deep, warm eyes, stole the air from his lungs. Claire. Her lips trembled. "Ethan," he crossed the space between them in 3 steps, pulling her into his arms. For 6 years, he had dreamed of this moment, but the warmth of her body, the sound of her sobbit was more than a dream. "It was proof she was real. I thought I lost you." He choked out. "You almost did." She whispered, "They never stopped watching you. I couldn't reach you. Until now." Amara stepped forward. "We don't have time. They're coming." Claire pulled back just enough to look into Ethan's eyes. "There's something you need to know. Something I couldn't tell anyone else." She reached into her coat and withdrew a folded birth certificate. Ethan frowned as he took it, then froze when he saw the name listed under father. It was his. "The child's name was Emily, our daughter," Claire said, her voice breaking. "They took her from me when she was born. She's alive, Ethan. They've been keeping her hidden to control me." The world tilted beneath him. Not only had they stolen his wife, they'd stolen his child. Before he could speak, the distant crunch of boots on snow grew louder. Mara's eyes flashed. "We have to split up. You take Claire, I'll lead them away." "No," Ethan said. "We stay together." Mara shook her head. "You won't get far if I don't." There was no time to argue. She shoved the barn's back door open and disappeared into the night, her small frame swallowed by darkness. Ethan took Claire's hand. "We'll find her," he promised. "I swear it." Claire's grip tightened. "I believe you." They slipped into the trees, the shouts of men closing in behind them. Every step was a battle against fear, but Ethan's mind was clear now. This wasn't just about finding Claire anymore. It was about finding their daughter. As the forest swallowed them, he looked back once. Through the trees, a single shadow stood watching. A young girl, barely visible, her face pale under the moonlight. For a heartbeat, he thought it was Mara, but then she smiled, Claire's smile, and vanished into the dark. Ethan's breath caught. Hope surged through the ache in his chest. The fight wasn't over. It was only beginning. And he would not stop until his family was whole again.